You ever look at someone in your life, someone who is just endlessly generous and kind, and wonder why they seem to be the most unappreciated? It's a really painful question, and in this explainer, we're going to get into the psychology behind it. We're talking about the paradox of giving.
You know, this isn't just some old saying. It's something deeply rooted in how our minds work. And the really tough part, most of us don't even see it happening in our own lives until we're left feeling totally empty, just wondering what went wrong. To really understand how this plays out, I want to tell you a story. So, we're going to call her Amara. And her story, well, it's a perfect example of how this whole paradox works in the real world.
Now, Amara's defining quality wasn't about her job title or how much money she had. It was her kindness, this incredible, seemingly bottomless well of kindness. It was just who she was, right down to her core. And look, her kindness wasn't just a nice idea. It was constant action. She was the person who always said yes, the one who would drop everything to help someone else out. At her job, with her friends, she was the go-to, the reliable one, the support system for pretty much everyone. She lived by this really simple, beautiful belief that if you put good out into the universe, it's going to find its way back to you. That was her philosophy. But life doesn't always play by those rules, does it?
And that brings us to the moment where everything shifted for her, a really painful realization that forced her to see her whole world in a different light.
So one day, out of the blue, her world gets turned completely upside down. She lost her job, and all of a sudden, the person who was always helping everyone else, she was the one who needed help. So, naturally, she reached out to that exact same network of people she had poured so much of her energy into for years. The response she got, though, it was not what she expected. There was this distance, a hesitation. That immediate warmth she always gave so freely, it just wasn't coming back. Some people didn't even bother to reply at all. And for the very first time, surrounded by all the people she had invested in, she felt completely, totally alone.
It was right there, in that moment of isolation, that this crushing truth just hit her. The more she had given of herself, the less she was actually valued. Now hold on. This isn't because her friends were all terrible people. The reason this happens is actually much deeper, and it's rooted in our psychology.
Okay, so let's get into the why behind Amara's story. It all comes down to a really basic principle of how our brains decide what's valuable and what isn't.
This is the key idea right here, the principle of perceived value. You might have heard of it as the scarcity principle. Think about it like this. Gold is valuable. Why? Because it's rare. Air is absolutely essential for life, but because it's everywhere all the time, we don't consciously think about its value. Our brains are basically wired to stop paying attention to things that are constant, and sadly, that can include a person's kindness. This is really the heart of the paradox. Just look at these two columns. On the left, when something is scarce or limited, our brain tags it as important. We appreciate it. But look at the right. When that same thing becomes constant, always available, it starts to feel ordinary. And over time, that appreciation slowly turns into an expectation. And that is exactly what happened to Amara's kindness. So, how do we stop this from happening? How do we keep our kindness from being taken for granted? The answer isn't to stop being a good person. The answer lies in understanding the incredible power of boundaries. And this isn't just some abstract theory, right? You've probably seen this, maybe even lived it. The coworker who never says no. They get overloaded and completely overlooked for promotions. The friend who's always there no matter what. They become the default plan, not the cherished choice. And in relationships, constant sacrifice doesn't always lead to appreciation. It can lead to being taken for granted. So here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't always respect kindness for kindness' sake. What our brains are hardwired to respect is value. And as we've just seen, that perceived value is so often tied to scarcity.
Let that one sink in for a minute. Your sacrifice, your time, your emotional energy, all that effort just gets blurred out. It stops being seen as a gift you're choosing to give and instead becomes a resource that's just there for the taking. Your kindness effectively becomes invisible.
So, let's circle back to Amara. She didn't become bitter or stop being a kind person. Nope, she got smarter. She figured out how to make her kindness visible again. The change was actually pretty simple, but it was profound. She learned the power of the word no. Not as a way to be mean, but as a way to value herself. She started being intentional with her generosity, making it a conscious choice instead of an automatic default setting.
And you know what? The results were almost immediate. By setting these boundaries, she wasn't available 24/7 anymore, so her time started to be respected. When she did offer help, it was seen as the valuable gift it had always been. And this is so important, when she wasn't there, people actually felt her absence. Her value became crystal clear.
So let's be absolutely clear about this. The lesson here is not stop being kind. Kindness is, and it always will be, a superpower.
And this is the single most important takeaway. Kindness without boundaries, it becomes invisible. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're the frame that makes your kindness visible and allows it to be valued for the powerful gift it truly is.
And that's the final thought I want to leave you with. Whether it's a person's effort, their time, or their love, if it's so constant that it fades into the background, its immense worth can be completely forgotten. Don't let your kindness become invisible.
So I'll just leave you with this question. Where in your own life could a healthy boundary make your kindness more visible? Just recognizing the pattern is the first step. The next one is learning to value your own generosity as much as you want others to.